I'm Georgette Miller, and welcome to our show. Now, the purpose of the show is basically, I'm trying to demystify the foolishness for you guys. I'm trying to reinstitute the fact that cash is still king. We've lived in this period of false prosperity that's based on credit. And what I'm trying to get across to you guys is this. Banks need us. We don't need them if we have our own cash. Let's get started. Hi, today we're going to talk about student loans. Now, there are many of us that sit out there and we really believe that student loans are somehow free money. You know, we're not really going to save for our child's education because when they become the grand age of 18, they're going to walk into that institution of higher learning and the financial aid department is going to be there. You know, it even sounds cool, financial aid. Financial aid department will be there and they'll provide the money, or the money will somehow come from FAFSA and Sallie Mae and the U.S. Department of Education that will afford this child to go on and have this higher education. What we're here going to talk about is the fact that it really is not free money. Student loans is like this albatross that sits around your neck. It's like this hotel that you check in, but it's very, very difficult to check back out. Student loans are thought of as the ticking time bomb in our finances right now. Why? You can literally file a bankruptcy today, and if you owe the IRS government debt, like you owed back taxes on your, on your W-2s or on your tax returns, if that amount is more than 3 years old, it's dischargeable in bankruptcy court. But student loans go nowhere. So if everyone went into bankruptcy court, they could discharge the credit card debts, but they could not discharge the student loans. Guys, student loans, it's not free money, and we really need to understand what it is before we walk in there and borrow. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now we want to get into some statistics that will really give you a clear understanding as to how student loans work and how they don't work. One statistic says the average college debt rose by about 6% to $24,000 in 2009. Further, due to stubbornly high unemployment, nearly 15% of those between the ages of 20 to 24 has made finding a job nearly impossible. So where are we? We have this unabridging, this heavy student loan debt, and we have the kids coming out of college and we don't have school. How could this have been prevented? Guys, cash is still king. For you mothers and fathers that are out there that are preparing for your child's education, one, if you had put away $100 a month, every month from the day the child was born in a 529, some kind of money mutual account, some kind of savings account that will grow interest over time. When the child was 18, you could have realistically had somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 to $150,000 cash for the child's education. So when the child was ready to go to school, instead of applying for the student loans that are non-dischargeable in bankruptcy, you would be writing checks. Now, for those of you who are in the situation now where you have these loans, what to do? The federal government enacted a program prior to 2012 that indicates you only have to pay 20% of your disposable income towards your student loans. Those are the federal loans, not private. So what you need to do is call up your student loan lender and find out whether or not you qualify for this program. Also, once you graduate after 2012, you only have to apply 15% of your disposable income towards your federal loans. And that will give you some relief. So call up your lender, figure out what program you qualify for, and enroll. Most of these programs, if you pay for 20 years, at the end of the 20 years, what is not paid will be discharged by the federal government. We're going to continue with this, and we'll be right back.
I always saw myself as a hard worker, a dedicated person, a reliable person, a bill-paying person, a person that saved their money to, who's that? That's not me. But my name was on there, and so was my social security number and the addresses that I had lived at over the past 10 years. So that was actually me, you know, and that's the way people they would see me, as that person with all of these problems, all of this trouble. What I was doing was I was taking the credit cards and trying to pay for everything. So if it was a medical bill that came in, if the baby needed Pampers, if the baby needed another piece of apparatus like a high chair or the swing or some shoes, or if the car was giving me problems. If I took my paycheck to get the car fixed, then I didn't have food to feed us with. And in order to have food to feed us with, I needed the car to run so I could get to the jobs to make the money. So it was like I was taking from Peter to give to Paul. So it was like I was working on zero. I had nothing. I had air going in between everything. And I made money, but I just didn't have the money to give to everybody. If I gave this person half of their money, they were sending me a letter asking me for the other half, but the other half of their money I gave to somebody else. But it might be too late because they getting ready to turn something off. So, you know, I just struggled. It was like a ridiculous struggle after struggle. And it wasn't so much that I didn't trust the people, it was that I didn't want to lose control of what was going on. I really didn't want them to know that I was in a crisis, because they felt comfortable. They could go to sleep, they could get up, they could eat, they could go to the movies, they could get their hair cut and their hair done. I was the one that was just running ragged from one day to the next, to a week, to a month, to a year, to 2 years. And then I said, whoa, wait a minute. This is a little bit too much now. I can't handle this. But once I hit that rut, I felt like I was in the low class. Even though I made good money and I had saved a couple dollars and I had possession of things that we didn't have when I was coming up, I'm like, I don't feel no better than I did as a kid, because I might have a car out there. I got a home where I can actually, I could run through my house and ride a bicycle through the first floor where we had to step over top of each other to get around, because I came from the projects. And I was like, this is not right. This is not working for me. But my fear was I didn't want my family to be uncomfortable. I didn't want them to worry. I figured, let me just worry about it, you know, because my man, he was sick. You know, my daughter had this child, you know, and they were all dependent on me, and I had to pull through for them. I had to make sure that I had a roof over their head, food to put in their stomach, and of course a luxury or two, a car, cable, you know, a telephone. You know, the ability to go out the house and be able to purchase things that they wanted, not what they needed, but what they wanted, you know, because I wanted to give them things in life. And I found that I was just digging that hole bigger and bigger for myself, and I couldn't talk, you know, and then I'm snappy because I don't want to tell you that I'm messing up, because I don't want you to get mad and we have to argue about things, or you don't want to talk to me because you don't know what I'm over here doing with the money or what is going on, you know, because the thing was, it wasn't drugs, it wasn't alcohol, it was mismanagement. You know, it was living too carefree. It was renting a car when nothing was wrong with the car that was sitting outside the door, or it was taking a trip when you really couldn't afford to, or buying that lottery ticket when you knew you had that winning number, but it wasn't that night, you know, or going to the casino and blowing the bill money and forgetting you got to come back here and be like, okay, well, we're not going to have that for maybe 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah.
Welcome back. Now, after the last segment, you're sitting there wondering, oh my goodness, is higher education worth it? Of course, higher education is worth it. I wouldn't sit here with an undergraduate degree, a Juris Doctorate, and a Master's of Law in Taxation and say to you guys, higher education is not worth it. However, it's an investment and you want to make the best investment possible and you want to be smart about it. I went to John Jay, a city university in New York. I could have gone to another private university, but I knew I would get a great degree from there and it would be cheaper. You got to be wise with your money. Now, many of you came out with all this debt, right? And you're wondering, should I take a forbearance or should I take a deferment? What's the difference? Is there any real difference? I'm here to tell you there is no real difference between the two. What happens in a forbearance or a deferment is you're allowed to not make any payments for up to, I believe, 3 years. But what happens during those 3 years? Interest continues to accrue and compound. Listen, student loan lenders, I call them the original gangsters. You get into that hotel, you can't get out. So you're sitting there wondering, should I enroll in either? My answer to you is not really. Continue to pay your student loan payments the best way you know how for as long as you know how. Enroll in those federal programs that allow you to only pay a certain percentage of your paycheck every month. Guys, student loans don't go away. If you have unsecured debt, file a bankruptcy and get rid of the unsecured debt, but pay your student loans. We'll be right back with your questions. Okay, you're home all day or even at night and you see all these tax preparers on the TV saying, come on in, get your early refund. Come get your refund. Come get your money. And this is something that I think is systemic within the minority community. This is foolishness. Why? I have clients walking into my office. They broke all year. Stop for a moment. Think about this. For 12 months out of the year, they broke. But come April 15th, or not even that long, January 30th, they're running to these tax preparers or whoever for their refund. And they're getting back $3,000, $4,000. I had a client walk in, she got back $12,000 in her refund. And she thought she was doing a good thing. Foolishness. Why is this foolishness? Come April 15th, let me tell you what should happen. You should owe the IRS nothing, and they should owe you nothing. If you got a refund April 15th for $12,000, that's $1,000 a month out of your check you send to the federal government for them to turn around and give it back to you April 15th. So they've held on to this $12,000, this $1,000 a month that you sent to them. So you sent this $12,000 to the federal government, $1,000 a month out of your check. Because remember, your refund is your money. So you sent them $1,000 a month out of your check for them to hold on to it for a year, interest-free, for them to turn around and give it back to you when you file your refund April 15th. What sense does that make? Wouldn't you prefer to have that $1,000 in your check every month? Especially when you broke all year? This is what the Georgette Miller Show is about. It's demystifying the foolishness. There is no reason on creation you should be walking out of these tax preparer offices who then charge you $400, $500 for you to get your money that you sent to the federal government. Or I'm being told that now they take a percentage of your refund that you sent to the federal government for them to turn around and give it back to you. That don't make any sense. It would be better if you took that $1,000 a month and put it in a CD, an IRA. Since you're so convinced or you're so determined to give it to somebody, put it in an account that grows interest as opposed to giving it to the federal government for them to turn around and give it back to you. That's just foolishness. And that's what we're going to talk about. Here we talk about the truth. All right, we're back. Now, this is the part of the show where we like to take your questions from Facebook, Twitter, or wherever. And I'm just going to go right into the question. This question comes from Stephen on Facebook. I can't afford to work and go to school. Should I take out extra money with my student loans for a living? Stephen, let me tell you something. You never take out an extra dime unless you absolutely have to. If you need to take a work-study job, if you need to only go to school part-time and work part-time, whatever you need to do to make this work for you, do it. But I absolutely will tell you this. Do not take out an extra penny that you have to with student loans. Again, these guys are the original gangsters. It's that hotel that you check in and you just cannot check out of. So, to wrap up, my answer to that question would be absolutely no. Okay, so now I have Brian on the line. Brian, what can we do for you?
Hey, Georgette. So my student loans are in my father's name, and I can't afford to help him at the moment. Is there anything that I can do to personally, help remove some of the burden from his name?
Unfortunately, Brian, student loans are like a hotel, as we've stated in the past. You check in and you can't check out. The only way to alleviate yourself and your father from that burden is to come up with some kind of payment plan. And like we stated in the past, the federal government has given you some relief where they've instituted programs that you only pay a certain percentage of your income going forward. Now, in your case, you don't have any income, so hopefully it will be based on your income, or better yet, they may look to your dad and it will be based on his income. Also, unfortunately, you may have to avail yourself of the hardship deferment or hardship forbearance plans, where I think you're allowed up to 3 years to not make a payment on your student loans. But during that period, be cognizant of the fact that when you don't make any payments, the interest continues to compound. So you really want to come up with some kind of payment arrangement. So what you want to do is, as soon as you get off the phone here, call up your student loan lender and figure out, what programs you qualify for and what you can reasonably afford to pay. Now, guys, we take questions on Facebook, so if you're sitting out there and you have questions for us, go to our Facebook page and send us a question. Okay, this is the part of the show that we like to call Let's Demystify the Foolishness. And we've been talking about student loans throughout this entire show. And what I want you guys to take away from this is, look, for some of you guys, it's too late. You've already checked into this hotel, and what you should be doing is you should be calling up your student loan lender and figuring out what financial program or what hardship program are out there that you can enroll in. And the ones that are out there are basically where they have you pay a certain percentage of your income for 20 years, and if you haven't paid off the loan at the end of the 20 years, it's discharged. But for those of you where you haven't already checked into the hotel, listen. If you have a young child right now, you know that in 15, 18 years, this child is going to need to go to college. Start saving for the education of that child now. Start putting away that $100 a month. Start open up a 529, open up a mutual money market account. Do whatever it is to start saving early for the education. Because although student loans feel like free money, it's not free. There are statistics out there now that says we have more student loan debt on a whole than credit card debt. And they're a ticking time bomb because you can't get rid of them. Guys, cash is still king. You want, when your child is going to school, you're writing checks. You're not applying through FAFSA and the U.S. Department of Education for student loans. Okay, guys. During this show, we talked about student loans. We talked about the fact that you've got to save for your kids' education, and the fact that student loans, even though the money feels free, it's not. Now, If you have any further questions, guys, if you want new tools for a new money mindset, go to our website, check out our Facebook page. We have exclusive videos there for you. You can go and post questions. You can use it to your heart's desire. It's there for you. Now, as they say in my country, walk good, and I'll talk to you guys next week.